Good morning, Wrestling Inc. Get up, get going. Happy Monday. It is me, your managing editor for WrestlingInc.com, Nick Hausman, joined here as I am every Monday to get the week going right. It's our good friend, Michael Wiseman. Michael, welcome back to the Wrestling Inc. Daily.
Thank you, Nick. It's good to be here despite the fact that Delta variant is running wild, that climate change is going to kill us all in 10 years, that NXT is a thing of the past, that everything is falling apart around us. We are still here delivering the news you can use despite our personal bruises.
Well, that put me in a terrible mood to start the week, Michael.
We're persevering, man. We're doing it.
The world's on fire. How about yours? That's the way I like it, and I'll never get bored here on the Wrestling Inc. Daily. Hey, now. Couple of all-stars, get your game on. Let's play. I love this. We got the comments going already. Hardcore Paradise. Howdy. Dave's here. Noob's here. Lady Wiz is here. Samantha's here. We're here. And yes, if you want to join in and be part of the show, comment section is going already. We have a ton of people already tuned in. If you want to be a part of the show, leave a comment. We'll throw it up on the screen. We'll welcome you in as we go along. Later on in the show, we're going to have the latest bit of audio that I'm presenting to you all today. This is part one of my conversation with Pitbull #1, Gary Wolf, former ECW tag team and television champion. This part, it's only about 12 minutes long, but it's such a perfect 12. I wanted to put it in there because he really has a different take on the WWE AEW relationship from the perspective of somebody who was in ECW and saw WWF send a lot of talent their way to create some kind of a market. So I won't go too far off into the weeds. I'll let Gary tell you his opinions on what he thinks might be happening here. Maybe we could talk about it in the mailbag if you remind me, Michael. Okay. But definitely something he throws out there today that I'm sure is going to get picked up a lot of places.
There you go. I'm sure this is more than just the rumors people had in the early days that Tony Khan is actually working with Vince McMahon and it's all part of some giant conspiracy theory to partnerships and whatnot.
Yeah. Also at the end of the show for everybody, we're going to dive in the mailbag. We're going to look at some good news, some new opportunities. 4 people added to Cody Rhodes, the Nightmare Family. We're going to talk about him here later on, but let's get to it here. News you can use. News to leave a bruise, and man, it was a bruising weekend for a lot of WWE talent, or now former WWE talent. So we'll start here. Fightful, they broke the news. This wave of releases from NXT included Bronson Reed, Bobby Fish, Leon Ruff, Tyler Rust, Jake Atlas, Mercedes Martinez, Asher Hale, Giant Zangier, Zachariah Smith, Kona Reeves, Ari Sterling, referee Steven Smith. Desmond Troy also revealed on Twitter that he had been released. AEW and GCW's Joey Janela tweeted out the following. The first reaction to the release is saying, absolutely embarrassing. Before we get into the kind of opus that is why this all happened, which name grabbed you first, Michael? Which one really popped out at you and really surprised you to see on that list of releases?
I mean, they're right at the top here. You said them first, but they did grab my attention and say, hey, something's up here. Bronson Reed, he seems like the exact mold of somebody that WWE wants. And Bobby Fish, he's the group he's been with for so long. Like, you have him up there with Undisputed Era. Those are just 2 big names.
Yeah, him, Tyler Rust, right?
Sure.
Like, just getting going right now in a pushed program. I was surprised to see Ari Sterling. Now, I guess, again, Alex Zane. He had just been on the Indies 6 months ago, really blowing up big. I mean, they took him away from GCW's Backyard Wrestling this year, and I was really pissed off about that. But anyway, this guy had only been there less than a cup of coffee, has tons of potential. I don't know how you just so quickly drop the ball with a guy like Ari Sterling, you know?
I have no idea. And Mercedes Martinez, that seems like a huge letdown for a division that they're trying to build up at this moment. I mean, all of these are shocking in their own way, but it's a lot at one time to process through and think about, well, they seem like they had a future here and they were just getting started and all these names in some way.
Dude. So we have a super chat here, I guess, saying from Black Saw Johnny Hex, did you see the WWE Universe is all elite meme? I didn't. But it does seem like they're kind of trending that way, right? Like, talk about flooding the market. I'll never forget just being on that Q2 media call where Vince McMahon says, I think we'll give them some more. And he just stopped. And I was like, more what? Talent, exposure, competition? We'll just give him more. And hot damn, man, shortly after flooding the market here. Well, Fightful.
Well, you think about a week ago, we were doing this show and we had Bray Wyatt as like the big name that we were shocked that got released so soon afterwards. And well, maybe that was it. Well, no, here's 12 more for us to put out there on the indies. It's just oof.
Well, Joseph and Diddy saying, I could be wrong and probably am, but do you think this latest releases is to distract from the Punk and Bryan news? I don't think so. It doesn't seem to be that way because we got a lot of info here about why these releases happen. Fightful saying all of the releases were announced to the rest of the company via a message from talent relations head John Laurinaitis. And regarding those non-compete clauses, the majority of the 12 or 13 that were released are under 30-day non-competes. This is typical. Also, this is becoming all too common when all these releases happen that Johnny Ace or somebody shoots the whole company a message about it. That's got to be nerve-wracking.
Well, you look at the time of day this happened. This happened Friday night in the middle of SmackDown. They were broadcasting a live show as this news. Now, this could have happened right before SmackDown, but it did feel a little bit like maybe not trying to distract from the Daniel Bryan CM Punk news. They were kind of burying it late in the day on Friday, as late as they could go, and hopefully covering up the news with their own show.
Yep. So we also have here from Fightful. We're gonna go, or no, we'll go to the Observer now. We're gonna be bouncing around the place here source-wise. So the Observer saying these roster cuts ultimately decided by Vince, despite Nick Khan getting the finger pointed at him. He does seem like he's the boogeyman at the moment. Khan is likely looking at the budget, recommending what contracts might not be financially sensible, but it's on Vince who calls the shot. And Meltzer speculated that Triple H has to be involved in these meetings regarding NXT, especially you think people would defer to him since he knows the brand best. And hey, Dave, all due respect, I don't believe that Hunter inherently has a call in a lot of these releases. I think that some of these are out of his hands, and he's probably not very happy about, if I had to guess.
Well, I would assume so as well, especially when we'll get to this in a little bit, the kind of talk about what NXT could become. Triple H, NXT has been his baby for how long now? 6-7 years, right? Since they transitioned from being a true developmental or that weird game show thing to the show on the network. Triple H has been trying to build something here. And you look at his path towards taking talent from the indies and putting them through the system. And you look at a guy like Bronson Reed, you look at guys like Bobby Fish. Triple H getting the call on some of these does not ring true in my head when I look at this list of talent.
Yeah. Johnny Hexer, by the way, who brought up that meme earlier, he's just wanting to let everybody know he's shared it with me on Twitter. So if you follow me on Twitter, you can go find out this meme that Johnny is throwing out there. So yeah, let's talk about the changes that are going to be coming to NXT. So Fightful, back to Fightful saying a high-level WWE official expects WWE releases to be a, quote, regular occurrence moving forward. How do you do that? At what point do you half-life to the point that there's nobody left, Michael?
I assume you're bringing people in to offset this. I mean, unless we're talking about a change from the typical we're going to lock talent down to multi-year contracts to a we're going to sign you to per deal basis. That's the only way something like this works without you completely gutting your entire product.
Yeah, so I don't know exactly what that means. But speaking under the condition of anonymity, the official noted to Fightful that while more departures are going to happen, they personally think 2021 will be an outlier in terms of frequency and the level of talent being let go. It was also said mass releases hadn't been discussed for nearly 4 years, from summer 2016 until the beginning of 2020. The WWE official said, quote, "It's business," is the line being given within the company. They also recalled WWE in talent stashing mode back in 2018 when WWE looked to collect wrestlers, develop a performance center around the world, then provide talent, native and international, with some traveling between each of these territories. And after about a year, that plan was slowed. A lot of talent was parked at NXT on USA, becoming the focal point. Then the pandemic happened, and that really put a stop to the international plans. And this is more in line kind of what I thought has been going on here, right? Like there was that 3 weeks where we were moving out of the pandemic, right? And now we're going back in. But in that period of time there, the decision was made. We got such bad press releasing people during the pandemic. We're going to wait and do this when we can be at least free and clear of that. And I think they saw their opening And that's what's happening here. They've just been sitting on so much talent forever, Michael.
You can justify this as a business decision and a business need, or it's just business, however you want to frame that, right? But it's also really hard to take this in at the same time we're talking about massive profits for the company contingent upon TV deals. But Nick, I think what we're seeing is a transition in the philosophy that Triple H was setting up underneath the WWE network into a different business strategy. Keep in mind, in the time that all this has been happening, right? We're saying 2018, they were still locking down talent. Back then, if you remember, the calling card of the network was that more fans tuned in for the wrestling than they did for the documentaries and they did anything else. And that whole plan to expand NXT across the world was to offer more hours of live pro wrestling. And they were really digging in on that. Well, around 2018, we start seeing these massive deals coming to a head with Fox getting SmackDown, USA signing back up, USA then getting NXT. And then, of course, this past year, the WWE network essentially being sold off to Peacock. You do see that their network strategy is changing. Peacock does not need all that same level of live event if they're content with just the pay-per-views. So I think part of what's happened in here is the network needed NXT and saw that as a big focal point for a way to sell the network to the fans. And all of that business strategy has changed. And then, of course, the pandemic on top of that, right?
Yeah. And, PW Insider here saying there's been a lot of internal talk about significant changes being planned for NXT as of late. Changes being discussed include a new logo, new lighting and look, different format from the weekly TV show, focus on younger talents, WCW 2000, right?
That's it. That's what it sounds like. Let's get a new logo. We'll put the little edges on it, new backdrop. We're going to go to a quicker pace of booking, get Booker T the championship.
It's gonna have like the butterfly logo, right? That everybody because obviously the iconic bold letter WCW logo, that was the problem. We needed something that looked like a ninja star.
How far away are we from bringing Eric Bischoff back into WWE to have him run this new version of NXT?
They tried that. They did it like 2 years ago. He was running SmackDown, right?
Well, you talk about consolidation of power, though. We go from Paul Heyman running Raw and Eric Bischoff running SmackDown, Triple H running NXT, to Bruce Pritchard's kind of in charge of everything now, huh?
Yeah. Well, David Flores here saying, more I thought about it, Vince might be right. If NXT talent don't want to go to the main roster, where is Vince supposed to pull from? NXT has to be developmental. And we'll look a little bit more at that dichotomy here in just a second. Does NXT need to be developmental? Great question. According to the Observer, these NXT cuts are part of a larger change in philosophy for NXT. It was noted that Bruce Pritchard and John Laurinaitis also behind these NXT cuts with McMahon. Triple H and Shawn Michaels not behind the cuts. So maybe they were in the room and Hunter, and they're like, hey, Hunter, what do you think of this Bronson Reed guy? Should we keep him? And Hunter's like, hell yeah. And they're like, nah, we're going to get rid of him.
There comes a certain point in those meetings where you're like, what does it matter what I say? I'm in the room, but you're not listening to me, right?
Yeah. This ties into what I've seen a lot of people be saying in the chat room right now. And that's apparently internally the thought process is NXT lost the Wednesday Night War to AEW. Now the goal is to return to the older style of developmental, bigger guys, younger guys. The change would be similar to the original format of NXT back when Curtis Axel debuted in 2010. There are divisive opinions on wrestling amongst the key people in WWE, and they are fighting for McMahon's ear. This is the current direction that has been decided upon. Things can always change. The exact wording of the new changes for NXT, the exact wording here, and I apologize because some of this language is a little bit dated, but no more midgets, no one starting in their 30s. They want people that can be box office attractions and main characters. However, despite this new change in direction, there is always exceptions, ... like Adam Cole, which we'll get to here in just a second, but pretty harsh from up top. No more midgets, no more guys in their 30s. Who's this Johnny Gargano guy? Hate him.
Man, this is brutal, man. And I'll tell you, we look at that they lost the Wednesday Night War, whether or not you think that was made up by WWE or AEW or the fans or whatever else, right? I believe the change in NXT happened before they even went to Wednesday nights. I think you saw this. I believe personally for myself, people say, when did NXT jump the shark? I think NXT not declined, but lost some of that sharpness to it, the interest, the intrigue, the energy right before all of this happened. Vince McMahon for years had been taking their top talent, putting them on the main roster, and doing nothing with them, right? I mean, I think the most recent occurrence before they went to Wednesday nights was we had Aleister Black up there and Ricochet in a tag team at WrestleMania.
Yeah.
And it was undermining their product for years. Bobby Roode, a former NXT champion, they didn't do much with him. Shinsuke Nakamura has been used better, but was never able to capture the big gold at WrestleMania. So it felt very much like the promises of NXT were being undermined on the main roster. But I also think you look at what's happening here with the change in philosophy of active developmental. And just for the record, if that's the new philosophy, how are we not keeping Bronson Reed? Because he fits in perfectly with that mold, right?
He's the biggest guy there. Yeah,
that's right.
Giant Zangier. Not too familiar with his work, but I'm going to guess large.
That's
very
it.
Large man, right?
But you look at this change in philosophy, and I can't help but think WWE shot themselves in the foot by trying to make NXT the third main roster brand, right? The reason NXT succeeded for so long was because it felt like an alternative product to what was happening on Raw and SmackDown. And then you said, hey, we're going to put it on Wednesday night against the other alternative product and force fans to choose, right? We've looked at numbers. There was some overlap of audience there. Not that it was a 1-to-1, but you were essentially forcing fans to either pick NXT or AEW. And the more NXT became USA Wednesday night, the third brand around SmackDown, it lost that alternative sheen. And of course, fans are going to side with AEW, the true alternative. So I think this whole move to Wednesday night, in retrospect, kind of really hurt NXT moving forward.
I agree with parts, disagree with others. I think the move to Wednesdays could have worked. I actually think it was not a bad idea, but they botched it. And I've seen that conversation. I've seen that conversation over the weekend. Like, when was the jump the shark moment for NXT where it just stopped clicking? And for my money, I think it was the post Survivor Series 2019 where they had NXT so well represented. They picked up like more team wins than Raw and SmackDown. And then the excitement was, well, so the Rumble's going to be 10 Raw, 10 SmackDown, 10 NXT, right? And we were all like, well, they're going to start treating NXT just like a third brand. They're going to get these same opportunities. I don't know if it was a conscious decision on Vince's part to pull back or if it was the pandemic, right? And they're like, well, all of a sudden we don't want the NXT guys with the main roster guys. We want to keep some distance there for health reasons. But I don't think that the pandemic had anything to do with the Rumble. If I had to go back and look at my timeline, that to me is when they sent a big signal to fans out there that we've done as much as we're going to do to treat this like a third brand. Best of luck. We gave you the big push early on, and now you're a brand. You're just like every other wrestler we've ever signed. Figure it out. You got your big bump. Now go make it happen on your own, kind of deal.
I think it did happen around the same time as the pandemic was kind of breaking out. But also, if you remember in that time, like out the gate, AEW and NXT on Wednesday nights were very competitive and were kind of exchanging blows there for a while. I think something happened in the creative space with all of this. They did with NXT as a whole brand what they do with so many talent, which is, hey, we're going to debut you in this big fashion. Here's your one big moment. And then we're going to pull back because I think in their minds, they can push talent whenever they want to. So they're going to establish them and then kind of feed them back into the middle of the pack until they want to elevate them again. The problem is they were fighting a war where you needed that brand to be elevated and not be a middle of the pack brand.
Right. And that is why I say that Vince, because there was a comment here earlier, but like, I feel like Vince here, here we go. David Flores. This was a war in McMahon's eyes. He does not like to lose, as been reported. And I believe that, but I feel like he's scapegoating other people when like the big reasons the NXT thing didn't work aren't because of Hunter, aren't because of Karrion Kross or Bronson Reed. It is because Vince himself chose at a certain point to no longer give NXT the resources he was going to give to other brands he viewed as bigger commodities. And that was a real, cutting your nose off to spite your face kind of situation there. I think historically it'll be looked at like that.
I think so too. And you are right. I don't want to say the mood Wednesday nights was a bad one. I don't think it was in general. I think the way you laid that out is correct. I think the way they were treated afterwards is what really hurt the brand. And I think they've not recovered from the pandemic. The talent it's great talent down there, but the storytelling hasn't been what it once was in NXT. It hasn't felt quite as big in quite some time. And again, it's the way that it's been treated by the other brands. When they were living in isolation, it felt like the biggest thing since sliced bread because they weren't constantly being compared to everything else happening in WWE.
Yes. So as Rome is on fire, Nero calls to his office, Adam Cole, baby. And Adam, that was pretty good, right?
That's good.
That's pretty good, right? So anyway, Adam Cole strolls in to meet with Vince McMahon. So as we reported, obviously, refresh here. Adam Cole's contract expired early July after the American Bash special. Then he signed an extension. Now it looks like it's going to be up after SummerSlam weekend. Fightful saying, and this was on Friday, that Adam Cole was scheduled to be backstage at SmackDown to meet with Vince. The meeting was described as high level. He did not appear on SmackDown. Higher-ups heard that this meeting went well. McMahon seemed to have taken a liking to Cole on a personal level. Creative pitches have been made for the former NXT champion on both Raw and SmackDown over the last week if he decided to resign. WWE has told Cole he is wanted on the main roster. The Observer saying it was reported earlier by them that Adam Cole had been offered an AEW contract. That same report said Cole was also negotiating an NXT contract, hadn't accepted either. Now, in an update, Meltzer saying that Tony Khan claims that the original report about him offering Adam Cole a contract, not factual, right? So Dave had to walk that back. I believe the headline of our Friday episode was AEW offers Adam Cole contract. So apologies for that one, everybody, but that was not correct info.
Let's just say this, that Tony Khan sometimes has a way of doing his Jedi mind trick with words where did not offer a contract could also mean that I have thrown a number out at him, but have not officially given him something to sign. Like Tony Khan does the little step around the words thing so that, oh, that headline's not right because it's not entirely true. He's been doing it for weeks around the CM Punk Bryan stuff. Anyway,
yeah,
I think this is really interesting to me because at the exact same time, at first it was like, oh, he's going to SmackDown Friday night. This is an immediate meeting. Why is this happening? If you look at the fact that these reports went out Friday night about the cuts, of course they wanted to get him in there as soon as possible because he's going to start having some feelings developed. And what they were trying to do, it seems like, is, okay, yeah, NXT is burning to the ground, but we want you to move beyond that now and do something else. And here are all of our ideas. Look at the new shiny thing. Don't worry about the bad news bears coming for NXT. But I have to imagine, Nick, if you're Adam Cole, you're going to meet with Vince. You've seen the way creative has been handled on the main roster for years now. You've seen the way NXT talent, who they wanted on the main roster, has been treated for years now. Your girlfriend is over at the other company. Even if you've not been made an official deal, you would fit in perfectly with their style, their attitude, everything else. You got to be second guessing anything that Vince McMahon says. You can be nice. Hey, yeah, sure, Vince. Great to meet with you. Thank you for the offer. This is great. But in the back of your mind, Adam Cole's a smart dude, right? Like, they got to be throwing boatloads of money at him to even be considering this offer.
Well, and Dave Langer here saying, I can't imagine what Adam Cole must have been thinking about. At the same time, he travels to SmackDown to meet with Vince about re-signing. All of these releases are happening, right? And so, like, you've just watched Bray Wyatt go, Braun Strowman go, Aleister Black go. You know that your spot is not that much better, I would think, than them. I do, and I've said this a lot, I won't overtalk it, but I do think it's got to be a really difficult time to trust a WWE deal. You know, maybe you'll get paid 6 months of what you were told you were going to get for 3 years, but in the end, if you know the winds change and they're looking just strictly at the top 10% of who's got downside guarantees, you're in the crosshairs, and it has to hang over him as he sees all these names getting released. But at the same time, if you're the one guy that, you know, again, Rome's on fire, Nero still has resources, maybe I can like make this work. Maybe Adam Cole is that guy, and maybe he stays. I'm with you for a lot of reasons, though. I think his skills could maybe better be utilized and, you know, shown over in an AEW. I agree.
But you never know. I mean, the thing is, he goes and he could take a deal with WWE. I'll play devil's advocate here, right? Takes a deal with WWE. He gets a tease of the main roster run, and he makes some money. If he gets released in a year, he still will possibly have AEW as an alternative option. The problem is, though, right now, AEW is signing some big name talents, and I guarantee you, if the Bryan and Punk things all come to fruition like we expect they will, that's a lot of money being tied up. In a year, you've already signed big names like Mark Henry and Paul White as you're bringing in younger talent to develop on AEW's brand. Tony Khan does not have unlimited resources. At some point, it's gonna be up. So maybe Adam Cole thinks maybe I should get in there while the door's still open. It's hard to say.
I just, the first time Vince McMahon sees Adam Cole standing in a ring with Randy Orton on Monday Night Raw, I don't know, right? Like, Adam Cole is protected in a lot of ways down in NXT because, you know, the roller coaster ride, height is a little bit shorter than over on the main roster. And I mean, look, no midgets. That's what it says. No midgets, Michael,
But if everybody is big on the main roster, Nick, how is anybody big? This is the thing I don't understand about WWE. It's good to have differing sizes of people because somebody pointed this out to me this morning. AJ Styles, if he fought in an MMA match, he would be considered a heavyweight, right? And so if that is the small guy on the main roster compared to all the other big dudes, how does anybody even feel big in the long run without having to be 400 pounds? Like, you need and let alone Adam Cole is super talented and he gets over that height disadvantage in a majority of ways, like his in-ring skills, his microphone, whatever, right? But again, if everybody is big, then nobody is big.
Well, talk about big and free agents. Follow up here on Ric Flair. The Observer saying Rick was earning significantly more money on his recent WWE ambassador contract that he just got released from than he made even in his best years as world heavyweight champion in WCW. So Flair last signed with WWE in 2020. And for what it's worth, it was revealed several years ago that Flair had made a total of $1.945 million over the period of 96, 97, 88, 99, and 2000. That breaks down, and there's a number here, but it also breaks down to $1.881 million in payroll, $72,000 in licensing, $700 in merch, which seems light, but whatever. Rick made nearly $2 million, and they're saying that whatever WWE is paying him was close to, if not more than that, just to have him around. So Rick, he had to have some really good offers out there, or just be super pissed about something. It's a lot of money, I guess, Rick walked away from for not having to do that much.
I guess, right? I mean, there's lots of crazy rumors out there that I won't get into because some of them don't deserve credibility. But, it's crazy to me that a company like WWE, and I understand the value in Rick, I don't want to undermine that, right? But in a company that's trying to slash costs, we're talking about who do we get out there in front of the fans every week? Who are we making money on? They're paying Ric Flair a lot of money to be kind of a background player in a lot of cases. He's helping out Charlotte some. He's good for merch sales. He's an ambassador. I get all that. That's quite a bit of payroll they freed up by having him sign or having him go away essentially on his own accord. But right. I can also see Rick's the kind of dude, he wants to go out and do stuff. His stock has kind of resurfaced at an all-time high in recent years went down for a few years. He did the Impact Wrestling stuff. He's pop culture, baby. He's out there doing music videos and everything else. Maybe he wants to go hang out with his son-in-law or future, over in AEW. Maybe Charlotte's not happy there. A lot of things could be happening, a lot of speculation, but hey, listen, Ric Flair's going to make some money. He's a name again.
Yeah. And we'll talk about making money and still being a name. The PWInsider.com reporting Lana scheduled to make her first WWE appearance in October. She's going to appear at the Legends of the Ring convention in Iceland, New Jersey on October 2nd. So a chance to go check out Lana if you want to go get an autograph there. But lastly here, before we get to part one of my Gary Wolf conversation, before we dive into the mailbag, WWE Hall of Famer Edge taking on Seth Rollins. That's official for SmackDown or official for SummerSlam. On SmackDown, Rollins appeared via the satellite to respond to Edge's challenge for the match. During the promo, Rollins said he's better than Edge in every way, and he knows it. To wit, MJF, apparently watching SmackDown, tweeted out an instant reaction saying, "Add a word so it's not plagiarism," insinuating that Rollins stole his catchphrase to use. It was pretty blatant. Right? Is Rollins just trolling AEW here, waving his WWE flag?
There's a lot of Seth Rollins is the ultimate troll when it comes to supporting WWE and poking fun at the bear that is the competition. That's part of it. But also MJF does the exact same thing. He likes to poke the guys in the other brand, and that's part of his heel shtick. Let's be clear about something. Better than you and you know it. This is not MJF uses this and he is known for it now. That kind of catchphrase or various kind of accords of that have been around for years.
But it's so in the moment his thing. Like, it's so blatantly his thing. It's like he's claimed it for this time. It's true. I see the it's like using a double underhook DDT, elevated DDT, using Moxley's finisher at the moment. Yeah. Have other people done the double underhook DDT finisher? Sure. But you don't do it right now unless like Moxie's cool with it or you ask about it, right? So
but here's my other thing on this, Nick. You're right. There's been riffs on this, and people own different things at different times that are very similar. I do think, though, it speaks to a little bit of the struggle WWE has right now is just being a little bit creatively bankrupt. And maybe Seth Rollins is poking the bear here. This promo was fine, but it felt like another WWE promo. I look at their t-shirt designs. They're fine, but they feel like, I'm looking at like Pro Wrestling Tees was running a big sale last week. All of these amazing designs for wrestlers all across the independents and in AEW. And I just can't help but think like, the reason people aren't responding to your product is because it just feels like you're just not coming up with anything unique. Even whenever you're poking fun, it doesn't feel authentic in any way.
Yeah. All right. Well, Michael, thank you for joining me at the top of the show to talk all the news of the day. Thank you to everybody who jumped into the comic section. Thank you to Pitbull #1, Gary Wolf. We're going to air part 2 either later this week or next week. But really great conversation. Thank you so much for taking the time, Gary. And with that, let's dive in the mailbag. Which new member of the Nightmare family is your favorite? Over at Wink Daily, WINC Daily. That's the place to vote. A little over 100 votes here. 51.9% Fuego del Sol, 35.6% Red Velvet, 8.7% Kylan King, and 3.8% for Baron Black. All 4 of these were made official on Sammy Guevara's vlog this past week, where Cody announced the new members of the family. There were 4 of them, so I thought this will make a good poll. Who of these 4 are you most excited about?
I mean, I'm with the people here. Fuego del Sol, that was kind of the interesting hook to me. Maybe it's just the bigger name that resonates with me, but all of these feel a little bit like we're kind of pulling in some people who've been out there wrestling some, but need a bigger platform. I don't know that the Nightmare family is that interesting of a faction to me in general. So I think somebody like Fuego del Sol appeals to me because I think he can kind of branch out and maybe elevate this AEW faction a little bit more. They're all great talents. Don't get me wrong, but that's the one that I was like, yeah, he has a different look, different style. I think he kind of adds a different flair to this family team.
Yeah, well, I'm a Red Velvet fan. I thought she showed a lot of fire once again, going out there, getting in Brett Baker's face. Like, she seems to be their like plug and play female, where it's like when they need somebody to heat up whoever's they're trying to push right now, Red Velvet seems to get called in for that role, which is like a good and a bad place to be, because like obviously you have value, but like you're not, I don't know. You're not.
You never get to crest the mountain, basically.
She will, though. She will. I like Red Velvet a lot, so I'm most excited for her. All right. We have a lot of people talking in the comment section, not really about this, more about like the MJF Rollins back and forth right now. Daniel Price, all Sweet Chin Music was a standing sidekick with a leg slap. I guess a lot of people do that. But people weren't, until the Bucks came along. Sure. Like Sweet Chin Music was like it was still like a revered move. Nobody was doing Sweet Chin Music before the Bucks just said, hey, you know what? This is a transition spot now.
Well, yeah. And you mentioned the DDT earlier in the show. I make that comment earlier about MJF, and yes, it's been around for forever, and we could poke fun at this. What I do appreciate is this recognition that people, I mean, it's the CM Punk thing about the GTS, right? Like, it's not his move, and he took it. He admitted recently he took it without asking. Like, this is part of what makes pro wrestling fun, because then maybe at some point, if we ever get a Seth Rollins MJF dream match, we can look back at this moment and smile and say, look, this is where it started.
Hey, I saw Kenta say he wants that CM Punk match, and I think that happens at AEW. I think
that's the dream match I didn't know I wanted, right?
I've been wanting it for a while. We have King Rail here asking, does WWE bring fans in to ask them their opinions about the product? They do like questionnaires through like the Parents Council survey or something like that from time to time. I don't know if they read them, right? Because it doesn't seem like they're changing anything, but occasionally they do. Yeah. Yeah, they do.
I've said this for a while. There's something in the way they look at their creative booking. They probably read the questionnaires, and that's one data point. And the other data point is how many t-shirts did this person sell this week, and how many YouTube videos. And they probably have this like overall matrix that defines a percentage point for every wrestler that is very like numbers driven and spreadsheet driven. And so that's why people don't get pushed sometimes. I think it's because maybe Nick, you didn't get enough YouTube clicks this week for some reason, and I didn't get enough t-shirt sales, and so we get put on WWE Superstars, right?
That's why I was put on WWE Superstars. That's why I'm wrestling there this week. They called me. They're like, are you willing to work for $50 and a hot dog and a handshake? And I was like, sure. Yeah. Okay.
I told them I'm not coming back until I can main event Shotgun Saturday Night. That's what I'm here for.
Fair enough. Which was referenced in my Gary Wolf interview, by the way. They took on the Pitbulls, took on the Headbangers. Shotgun. No, Sunday Night Heat. I got it wrong. Different.
That's a move up. You're on like prime time at that point. It's not midnight Saturday night anymore. So.
I guess. All right, everybody. Hey, I want to thank you so much for tuning in. This was a great way to start the week. I'll be back tomorrow. I'll be joined by EJ Cameron. I'm doing a big interview this afternoon. I don't know if we're going to air it tomorrow or Wednesday, so I'm just going to say mystery interview. But one of the names that we have on the docket this week, Stephen Amell from Heels. Scott Fishman went out and got him, so I don't know if that'll be tomorrow or Wednesday.
That's awesome. I'm so happy for Scotty and happy for you guys.
Well, and then but there's a lot of names this week that little cavalcade will come out, and you will all have a great time, and you will read all the news, and it'll be wonderful. So come back tomorrow, me, EJ, mystery interview. Also, if you like the Wrestling Inc. Daily, support WrestlingInc.com. We're on all your favorite socials, and of course, the Wrestling Inc. podcast, which is like this, but at night, right? And they're talking about shows after they're done. You could go subscribe to the Wrestling Inc. podcast over on all podcast platforms as well. It's after all the big shows. Subscribe to the Daily and the Wrestling Inc. podcast, both. All right, Michael, what do you want to plug, promote, put over here to wrap up today's program?
Nick, thanks for having me. I enjoy kicking off these Mondays with you. It's a great start to the week, and we always have such buzzy shows to discuss, so it's always a lot of fun. Thanks, everybody, for joining us in the chat. I am on Twitter, @TheRealWiseman. Give me a follow and a shout-out on there if you don't mind.
Yes, and Rob Humphrey asking in regards to Stephen Amell, is that Arrow?
Yes.
Yes, that is Arrow. Arrow's going to be here this week. So,
he's also the guy that tag team with Stardust back at SummerSlam in 2016, 15. To a winning victory over Neville and whoever else was in that match. So,
all right, there, yeah,
undefeated in WWE. Stephen Amell.
I think he's had an AEW. Hasn't he wrestled in AEW yet?
He wrestled at All In, not officially an AEW event.
Okay, that's right. I feel like
against Daniels.
Yeah, I feel like I've seen Amell in a ring before. All right, well, hey, thank you all so much for tuning in. I am, by the way, before we all go, this Friday the 13th. If you're in Chicago, you're around Chicago, you come to Replay Lincoln Park. We're going to do the official Chicago AEW Rampage premiere party. They're sending a prize pack, posters, napkins, all kinds of cool stuff. It's free to attend. If you know Replay, it's a bar arcade, so there's tons of arcade games and pinball. All of that is free. We're actually going to do a WrestleMania arcade tournament. They have the WrestleMania pinball machine. We're going to be seeing who can do the highest score on that for the night. So big wrestling party this Friday night over at Replay Lincoln Park. Starts at 7. Go until I have drank too much and walk home. So come drink with me and watch AEW and walk away with some free stuff too. So there it is. Hard sell. I am at Nick_Hausman. Thank you so much for tuning in. I'll talk to you tomorrow. And remember, if you winked, you didn't miss it.